That Michael Jackson movie is a 10 out of 10 across the board. Go see the movie.
It's one of the worst movies I've ever seen. It's one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
I think this movie is 1,000% worth your time.
He's the greatest of all time.
That movie was so fucking cold. Oh my God. I'm about to run into people. I'm a crybaby sometimes, but look, no, that shit was crazy. They did Mike so wrong.
We watched Michael Jackson on screen. That is one thing that we all cannot deny.
I audibly gasped when Jafar Jackson got on screen and he started talking. Gasped. He looks so much like him. He sounds exactly like him. He made me feel like I was watching Michael Jackson. And I loved Michael Jackson. I don't know, it was super nostalgic. All of the songs. My mom and I are huge Michael Jackson fans. And it was a beautiful movie. It was beautiful. Give that man an Oscar nomination. He was so good. That is what a movie should do. The movie should make you feel like you're a part of it. Like you feel like that character is that person. And holy shit, did that do it. This was his first acting.
I don't know whether you've gone to watch this movie being premiered, but what I've seen, people in the theaters were catching the spirit as if Michael Jackson was in the room. But in this video, we are going to talk about the massive divide that is happening right now. On one side, you've got the critics over at Rotten Tomatoes burying this movie with a 30% score, calling it hollow and too simple. But on the other side, the audience, especially Black American community, is giving it a near perfect 100. We are looking at the raw reactions from the fans who are saying that Jafar Jackson has channeled his uncle's soul, to the skeptics who think that the script was just a Wikipedia page. We are diving into the family drama, the Joe Jackson years, and why this movie hits so differently for the culture than it does for Hollywood. Let's get back into these reactions, then I will be back at the end. We've got a lot to break down regarding this legacy. Let's get into it.
Jafar did a really great job in his first ever role. He really truly embodied Michael. Coleman Domingo is another standout for me, and the film does really make you reflect on what an incredible run that Michael truly had during his really impressive career.
Jafar Jackson gave all of us the opportunity to experience Michael Jackson on the big screen. That was not no Jafar Jackson I was watching. That was a Michael. That was hip. That was so much Michael Jackson, the glitter was glittering off the damn screen. That is most certainly him. If there's anything we all should be able to agree on, it's that boy was iconic. He killed that performance. The way this brother made me feel throughout this movie, pun and frickin' intended, this boy was bad to the MFing bone. It was honestly scary at times how resemblant of Michael this brother was.
Jafar Jackson, give that man an Oscar right now. He deserves every award that the Academy, that whatever, can give him. Give him he's going to get an Oscar. If you don't give him an Oscar for that, I thought it was Michael. There was oh my God. There were points when I said, is that Mike? I literally thought it was Mike. Oh my goodness. That movie, that's my favorite movie right now. Like, listen, you ask me what my favorite movie of all time is, I'm gonna say Michael Jackson. That movie was sensational. And they said the movie was 2 hours long. The movie could have been 4 hours long. I still would have been sat right there. I'm telling y'all, I would have been sat right there watching the whole thing. I would not have moved. I didn't look at my phone not one time. I didn't check the time. Nothing.
Now, I will say, when Jafar Jackson first came on screen and he first uttered his line as Michael, as the older Michael Jackson, it was like, Q, I want to be different. I want to be older. I want to be a real boy, or whatever he said. I was like, oof. I was like, rough start. Okay, let's try this again. But as the movie continued, as every single clip kept going by and you kept just watching all the recreations of Michael's videos, Michael's songs, all of just Michael's mannerisms, his dancing, everything that made Michael Jackson who he is, Jafar Jackson became that. Jafar Jackson went beyond that and literally stepped into the body of Michael Jackson. It got scary at times how good he was. But I will also credit the young man who portrayed the young Michael Jackson, because from the jump, boy, I thought they recreated the young Michael Jackson somehow, because that kid from the very jump was the younger Michael Jackson. He was absolutely fantastic. That boy got a future. That boy has a future in Hollywood because he was phenomenal. Coleman Domingo. Jafar Jackson and Coleman Domingo gave Oscar-worthy performances in this movie. I truly believe they gave nominational-worthy performances in this movie. Every ass whooping that Coleman Domingo gave out, I felt like I was next. I mean, it can't get more real than that. Coleman Domingo was terrifying, and I loved the terrifying, haunting, traumatic dynamic between Jafar and Coleman as Michael and Joseph Jackson throughout the entirety of this movie, because it is the true soul and heartbeat of this movie and the story that they're trying to tell.
For y'all to fast forward through his entire life and make the entire thing about the Jackson 5 and him getting away from Joe Jackson, his life was worth way more than that. This entire movie, you could tell that the Jackson family and his estate worked on this together. The whole movie. Now listen, hold up. Coleman Domingo as Joe Jackson, phenomenal job. I couldn't stand your ass, Coleman. You get an award. Nia Long as Michael Jackson mama, phenomenal girl. That's how you act. Jafar Jackson as Michael Jackson, boy, you know you getting an Emmy or something. Huh? But the movie and whoever wrote the script, horrible. The credits came up in 1988. That's when Michael Jackson first started pumping. We ain't even getting to the Egyptian joint when they was pop locking with the pharaohs. Come on. We ain't even get down there. Oh, y'all with Busta Rhymes, we ain't do nothing from my lifetime. The whole movie was about the Jackson 5 and Michael Jackson trying to get away from Joe Jackson. So I know y'all just sat around and kikied about y'all daddy. Oh, make sure you put this in it. This how we was raised. Don't nobody want to watch no whole damn movie about y'all. Y'all had to put a hat on Tito so we know who he was. Michael Jackson, if he was here, he would have ripped y'all asses a new one. I'm not rating this movie because it shouldn't have been called Michael. It should have been Michael getting away from Joe Jackson and standing on his own. I know the title long, but that's how I goddamn felt at the end. They showed one performance of Michael by himself, and after they did that, the credits came up. I said, I know damn well this ain't. It must be a part 2 coming on. I can't rate this, y'all. This is out of my pay grade. Y'all do with that information what you will. I know Michael moonwalking in his grave.
Michael was such a complex person, and I've admired Michael for so long and studied Michael for so long, that for you to make the only antagonist in this movie be Joe Jackson is very lazy writing. The movie basically sums up to, I just got to get away from my dad because he's so evil. I think that that's doing Michael's story a disservice. Even if it is just half his story, I think that's doing it a disservice. I think they did a disservice to the actors that they had in it, because they have phenomenal actors, but they could only do so much with what they were given.
It's so bad. Don't believe anybody. Like, look, if you're a fan of Michael Jackson, if you're there just for legacy, if you love him more than you love film, don't ignore me. Go have your fun. If you love cinema, if you love what it takes to make a film, if you love writing, storytelling, script, the depth of relationships, cinematography, editing, creativity, all of it. I saw a review that said that, like, it has the emotional depth of a Wikipedia article. It also has the writing of a Wikipedia article. It is just a series of, like, then he met this person, then he met this person, then he met this person, then he did this, then this happened. There is no sense of insight into this movie. There is no real point of view. There's no, like, texture. There are all of these huge figures, Quincy Jones, Berry Gordo, Gladys, like, all of these people, they just sort of rock up. There's not a single one of them has a line that you will remember. None of them. You don't get any insight into how they shaped him at all. You don't get any insight into how they challenged him as a maker. You don't get any insight into how they really changed the story. It's so surface level, which is why it's going to satisfy the fans. The Jackson 5, this is not a joke. The Jackson 5, you hear the names of the Jackson 5 members once.
Depends on what kind of lens you're looking at this movie through.
Like, I want to lie. I just want to lie. I just want to be... Because I know I'm going to get hate. It has nothing that makes a good biopic good. It has none of the creativity and colour and life of Rocket Man or Better Man. It has none of the, like, central performance. You know that central performance in Ray from Jamie Foxx? Oh my god, it's one of the worst movies. It's one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my entire life. This is one of the most mechanical, empty, surface level movies. And then it also doesn't have the sort of emotional depth of, like, what's love got to do with it? Not even close. The only relationship worth talking about in this movie is of that with his father. It is so heavy-handed. It is, you know when people say show don't tell? This is tell. There is no showing. I don't, like, this is a movie I would walk out of. Oh my god, it was so bad.
Michael Jackson still has the most powerful conqueror's hockey in real life. Cause why did I see him just make somebody pass out from his biopic? That's not even actually him, and it still works. He deadass did what Joy Boy did with that knot.
Honestly, it feels like propaganda. Like, sanitized and white. It's pandering. It is pandering to fans of Michael Jackson. It's one of the worst movies I've ever seen. When I saw that 33% on Rotten Tomatoes, I was like, oh no, it can't be. I was so convinced. I said it in the comments of another video. I was thinking 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10, because I don't like biopics.
Michael Jackson still has the most powerful conqueror's hockey in real life. Cause why did I see him just make somebody pass out from his biopic? That's not even actually him, and it still works. He deadass did what Joy Boy did with that knot. Making someone pass out 15 plus years after your death is crazy. I never want to hear anyone argue that Michael Jackson isn't the greatest artist of all time.
Fans turn this into a full-on experience. People are showing up dressed like Michael Jackson, dancing in the aisles, passing out from excitement, ambulance being called.
I don't know if I've seen a better movie in the past 5 years. I almost want to stretch it to 10. I was sitting there in the seat. My eyes did not move from that screen, not one time. I didn't look at my phone, not one time. I didn't check the time, nothing.
Am I the only one that liked the Michael Jackson movie that just played out in cinema? Like, I give it 8 out of 10. And the reason why it's not a 10 is because it was very surface. Like, it didn't go into depth, but phenomenal actors. Jafar Jackson, his nephew, Jermaine's son. That's his first ever movie role, and you're playing your uncle.
They 100% lied about this Michael Jackson movie. They tried to tell us the new Michael Jackson movie was trash. They said it was missing too much. They said it didn't go deep enough. But what they not telling you is this movie actually shows the real foundation of Michael Jackson. From being a kid to signing with Motown and Berry Gordy to linking up with Quincy Jones, they showed the pressure. They showed the fear. They showed how his father controlled everything. And this is the part people missing. You actually see why Michael became Michael, why he felt alone, why he felt more connected with animals than people, why he built his own world. That wasn't random, that was trauma. This movie shows when he finally stood up to his father. The singing, flawless. The dancing, on point. Jafar Jackson, he didn't just look like Mike. He had the moves down pat. And yeah, they didn't show everything, but what they did show, they got that right. This movie reminded me of why Michael Jackson wasn't just a star. Why Michael Jackson was different. You ever hear the term out of sight, out of mind? You forget things when you don't see things. This movie right here made me remember how great Michael Jackson was. Made me remember how much I love Michael Jackson. Mind you, this movie shows you there will never be another star as big as Michael Jackson. You can have the debates. You can say if this person might be bigger. Nah, not bigger. It's Mike. And this movie shows every single bit of that. They want you to believe it's trash, but it's not.
It's a very entertaining movie, but it's still a very hollow movie. For me, the film is lacking so much of what could have taken it from a good film to a great film, maybe even an excellent film. And no, For me, this has nothing to do with the allegations that Michael faced in his career being excluded from the film, as the Austin Butler-led Elvis film a few years ago also failed to include the allegations that he faced throughout his career, and that is also a flawed biopic, but I still enjoyed it.
Why do you want the movie to just be full of allegations that he multiple times was proven innocent over?
I just feel like there were so many moments where we could have gone a little bit deeper into Michael's story and even his journey with his artistry. There was a lot missing there for me. And I feel like this film just grazes the surface. It touches on things, sure, but it's almost afraid to really lift that veil and show us what's underneath the surface. It's more focused on giving us a performance and showing aspects of his iconic performances in Thriller and Beat It, rather than telling us a really good story about Michael's life. And I feel like for me, that's why it feels like it kind of just is a little bit jumpy at points rather than flowing and being just a really cohesive story. And by the time that we get to the end of this film, it almost feels incomplete.
The movie was really fast-paced. They didn't have Janet Jackson inside the movie. A lot of people said Janet didn't want to be in the movie because she felt like it was a money grab. Rumors were saying that Randy Jackson didn't want to be a part of the movie because Jermaine took his wife and smashed her and had kids by her. Was kind of bold, so I wouldn't want to be a part of the movie either. Also didn't really care for the cast. I feel like they just cast anybody. They did a good job with, in my opinion, Kid Michael and Javar playing Michael. He did a good job as well. But I feel like the other cast, I feel like they just kind of said, man, you're going to go here, you're going to go here, you're going to go here. The main focus is going to be Javar. And I feel like that's why they kind of rushed through his childhood, because they just kind of wanted it to be about Javar portraying his uncle. And I get that. But they left out a lot of good moments with the Jackson 5. Also, wasn't a big fan on how they end the movie. They end the movie kind of
There is an old saying that goes, two things can be true at once. And in this particular case, guys, when it comes to this particular movie and this particular musical biopic, that is most certainly the case, because I can see both sides. I can most certainly see why there are plenty of reasons to say that this movie is absolutely exceptional. But there are also plenty of reasons to question whether or not, if they were ever going to tell some sort of story in this movie, or just go over straight details of Michael's life and minor details at that, and just play an entire music video. But at the same time, there is one thing I hope we all should be able to agree on walking out of this movie theater. And it is the fact that its biggest issue is that it never decides to actually be a movie. There is one point in this film where it completely throws away the idea of being a movie whatsoever and literally just starts to play the hits. And it's once Jafar Jackson pops up on screen as Michael Jackson. I can say that in the beginning of this film with the younger Michael Jackson, there was an attempt to try to tell some sort of story, some sort of narrative here. But once he got older, all they did was take everything you saw as Michael Jackson as a child and repeat those beats over and over and over just to get to the next step of his career.
Am I the only one that liked the Michael Jackson movie that just played out in cinema? I give it 8 out of 10. And the reason why it's not a 10 is because it was very surface. It didn't go into depth, but phenomenal actors. Jafar Jackson, his nephew, Jermaine's son. That's his first ever movie role, and you're playing your uncle.
The movie lacked depth. It told us nothing new that we didn't already know, that we haven't already gotten from any of these other Michael movies and documentaries. I felt like I saw Coleman Domingo as Joe Jackson for a total of 20 minutes in the movie, just spread out in small increments. All Nia Long did was eat ice cream and popcorn every time I saw her on the screen. Then we just had long recreated videos and recreations of his most iconic moments. The movie lacked substance, and it really just felt like it skipped ahead and we missed so many important pieces. They glossed over how close him and Berry Gordy was and how Joe Jackson felt some type of way about their relationship. They also glossed over how manifestation and affirmations were important to Michael. They touched on it, they showed the post-it notes that he put on his mirror, and they showed him saying affirmations in the studio, but they glossed over everything. Everything was done so quickly. It was showed the year 1981, and we have a 6-minute scene, and next thing you know, we're in 1983. How are we jumping so fast, so far in ahead? It's ridiculous. They gave you sprinkles of his vitiligo diagnosis, but they never really got into it. They glossed over the nose jobs. They tried to push the whole Neverland Peter Pan thing, but it just fell flat.
critics kind of universally agreed that this movie is absolute trash. They destroyed it. It was averaging a 3 out of 10 score when it released, which back in the day used to mean that this movie was going to flop hard. But this is not back in the day, because at this moment, Michael is projected to be the highest selling music biopic ever made, beating out movies like Bohemian Rhapsody, Walk the Line, Rocket Man, and beating them by a lot. It opened to 219 million in sales, which is funny because the studio thought that they were going to be getting max 60 million at best. I think they underestimated just how much love Michael Jackson's fans still have for him after all this time. And really, I don't think that his fans care whether this movie is like high art or not. Because really, they're just treating this as an opportunity to celebrate a musician that they love so much. Because Michael passed away before he could go on that big elaborate tour that he was planning, a lot of people just kind of felt like there was unfinished business.
You lose the favor of God when you're not living in your purpose. Michael Jackson knew he had no business being on that victory tour, but because he was scared and lacked the confidence to tell his father no, he went anyways, which led to a series of events that will eventually unalive him. Because if you think about it, that Pepsi commercial accident was his first encounter with pain meds. He didn't just end up with third-degree burns and the inability to grow his hair back. He has severe nerve damage. And that caused immense pain to the point where he had trouble sleeping. And not only that, his mental health suffered as well. Like, people close to him often said he became more isolated, guarded, had a lot of anxiety, which also contributed to his lack of sleep. And if you know anything about his death, all of those things relate to it. I don't really have a moral of the story, but if I had to pick one, it would be that I think a lack of confidence is dangerous. Because a lack of confidence is what puts you in rooms God never assigned you to. And sometimes you don't make it out.
It feels like the movie just ends. And this is also partly due to the fact that the film underwent very significant and costly reshoots, which forced the removal of the film's entire third act, which did actually cover those 1993 allegations. I also noticed that there wasn't even like a title card at the end kind of detailing things that happened in the years thereafter, including Michael's death and that big jukebox-styled Broadway musical that was created in honor of his legacy. And there were a lot of people that were pivotal to Michael's journey that were not a part of this film. Diana Ross was cut from the film for legal reasons, which sucks because I would have loved to have seen Kat Graham take on this role, and I just also want to see Kat Graham in many more things. And Janet Jackson isn't in this movie at all, and it's because she didn't want to be. According to LaToya Jackson, Janet had kindly declined being part of the movie. And I feel like not having Janet is super odd. Other Jackson family members were excluded as well, so that's an issue too. And I also do feel like the actors that were playing Michael's siblings, and even Nia Long, who was playing his mom, at points, none of them really had much to work with. Even Miles Teller, and Miles is such a great actor, and he was given nothing to do. He was just kind of there. And I also saw there were rumors that Janet and Jermaine Jackson were fighting at this private screening for the movie, which makes me wonder what was really going on behind the scenes here. It seems super complicated. And if you haven't seen this, Michael's daughter, Paris, publicly distanced herself from the movie. She said that the film panders to a very specific section of her father's fandom that, quote, still lives in a fantasy.
The thing about these biopics is it's Hollywood. So it's fantasy land. It's not real. But it's sold to you as real. And a lot is sugar-coated, like the narrative is being controlled. And there's a lot of inaccuracy and there's a lot of just full-blown lies. And at the end of the day, like, that doesn't really fly with me.
And Paris does have a point when it comes to just talking about the biopic genre in general and her issues with that, which is why I'm also not largely in favor of the genre as well. And if you know me, I cannot stand Bohemian Rhapsody. But anyways, Michael isn't a bad film by any means. I absolutely enjoyed myself, and I do think that this is worth seeing on the big screen. But I also believe that The King of Pop did deserve a better film. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
All the negative reviews about the Michael movie are bullshit. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a huge Michael fan. I'm saying that because not only have I seen the movie twice, because I also understand the movie and what story they're trying to tell and how they're trying to tell it. And the negative reviews clearly show that not only did you so-called critics not even watch the damn movie, but also that you don't understand the movie, its backstory, and the full production process. But if you actually click on those reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, you'll see something that is a clear indication of a smear campaign, because all of the negative reviews are consistently pointing out the fact that this movie glazed over allegations, skipped past controversy, and tried to paint Michael in a perfect light. But here's the thing. The studio was not trying to skate over allegations. In fact, the movie was supposed to release in 2024, but had to reshoot the entire third act because it addressed allegations that it legally could not address. So for you to have that information be public and then watch the movie and negatively review it because it didn't include the allegations is a clear sign that y'all are trying to make this movie flop. Am I saying that this movie is perfect? No, but it is still a damn good movie. And I do have some very valid criticisms, but those criticisms have nothing to do with what the negative reviews are saying. I also find it very ironic that when all of the screenings and premieres were done overseas, like in Berlin and Ireland, all of the reviews were positive. But as soon as the early screenings and premieres hit the States, all of a sudden, now there's negative press. Now there's bad reviews. Now the movie sucks, which is very ironic because if you know anything about Michael Jackson's life, you would know that at some point he stopped touring in the States because of the negative press that he was getting. He got more love overseas at a certain point in his career than he did in the States. And it's just really funny to me that once again, proving that he was right. Overseas reviews are positive, but as soon as they hit the States, they're all negative. It's like, what did you want? Did you want a 2-hour movie about pedophilia? Because, you know, the Rotten Tomatoes critics, they love Leaving Neverland, which is currently sitting at a 98% on Rotten Tomatoes, which was an entire documentary about a false allegation that was probably more false than the other false allegations. Even if there was no third act that had to be reshot due to legal problems, you would know that if this movie stops during the bad era, specifically the bad tour in 1988, that is 5 years before the first allegations even came out. So how in the hell can you watch a movie that ends before the allegations came and then criticize the movie for not including allegations?
It feels as if somebody took the entire life of Michael Jackson and turned it into a children's book and dumbed it down as much as humanly possible. It's as if somebody's literally there sitting there going, "This is the story of Michael Jackson. Once upon a time, there was a boy named Michael Jackson who went hee, and he believed in Neverland." And it feels like somebody's talking like that the entire time. Even though this movie may have its issues, it is still something to behold and be in awe of, because what is being pulled off on this screen by Jafar Jackson in no way, shape, or form is easy. It is certainly one of the most difficult tasks in the entire world to be asked to portray Michael Jackson in a major motion picture, something that's never been done before. Is this movie Ray? No. But is this movie All Eyes on Me? Hell no. This movie is damn sure not the worst biopic in the world, but it's not necessarily the best. Do we wish it was closer to the best? Yes. But essentially, this movie is playing it as safe as they can. In my opinion, it's afraid to even be a movie at times.
This is the insight that I got from the movie. Michael Jackson was born with perfect pitch. He was a nice, sweet, innocent boy throughout his entire life. He didn't like his dad, but he really loved Peter Pan, loved Peter Pan. And you would assume that because he built an entire ranch based off Neverland, but the movie makes sure to remind you 7 or 8 times that this dude was obsessed with Peter Pan. I was just kind of bored. Correct me if I'm wrong, there's no story being told. Some of my favorite parts were the creative process. I wish they just leaned into that. I loved when he was doing the choreography for Thriller. He was making the music video. He was in the studio with Quincy Jones making some of the best music ever. And they just glazed over it, and Quincy's like a 5-line cameo throughout the entire movie. Same thing with the manager. Miles Teller just reads a few generic lines. He's supposed to be the guy that's gonna make all these things happen for MJ, and then they just happen. There's no friction, there's no story to tell there. And you're gonna tell me that he had no sibling dynamics? There wasn't one brother that was super close and protective of him, or one that was ego driven and thought that he should be the Michael Jackson of the family? And then fine, say that's just how it went. It was just this happened, then this happened, then this happened. He was so talented that there was no friction at all besides with his dad, and he basically just lived this blank check lifestyle. He made the best songs ever, performed performed in front of these huge crowds, and everything just worked out serendipitously. I'm gonna doubt it, but if that's how it went, then I guess it's just so ironic that the most famous and interesting person ever had the most boring rise to fame ever, because that's how I left feeling. And then the last 30 minutes is basically just 4K remastered performances, which if that's what you want, you're gonna love it. I saw someone say it was like they're dangling keys in front of the fans. That is what it is. Jafar's great. I wish there was more of the creative process because I really like that. I didn't know that he was like heavily involved with going to see kids at the hospital. I thought that was cool, but the storytelling was empty, and I don't think it's too far off that 30% rating. Like, genuinely, the biggest takeaway was that Michael really likes Peter Pan and animals.
The fans did not care. Fans turned this into a full-on experience. People are showing up dressed like Michael Jackson, dancing in the aisles, passing out from excitement, ambulance being called. And in places like China, crowds are waving light sticks like they're at an actual concert. Also, in case you forgot, Michael reached this level of fame without social media. No TikTok, no Instagram, no algorithms, just talent, innovation, and a connection that crossed every border. His fame was and is so massive that MJ has fans that haven't even been born yet. Like, the dude quite literally invented aura. For example, when he showed up to a LA Lakers game in the 1980s, reportedly invited by Magic Johnson, pure pandemonium erupted. The moment he appeared on the Jumbotron, fans started rushing towards him from all sections, crowding aisles and moving toward the floor just to get closer. Security couldn't contain the mob, so the game had to be paused in order to evacuate him. When Michael filmed the They Don't Care About Us music video in Brazil, it was shot in Rio de Janeiro. However, in the area that they did it in, it was controlled more by organized crime groups than police. Local authorities initially tried to shut the production down, partly over concerns about how the area would be portrayed and because they didn't fully control what happened there. So the production had to negotiate directly with local gang leadership, who agreed to protect Michael and the crew during filming. Who else can do that? When Michael Jackson passed in 2009, the entire world stopped, and I'm not even joking. Google searches spiked so high, they temporarily crashed. Twitter saw one of its biggest traffic surges ever at the time. News stations across the globe cut into programming. People gathered in the streets holding vigils, crying, dancing, celebrating his life all at once. Radio stations played his music non-stop. Stores sold out of his albums overnight. His catalog shot back to #1 globally within hours. When Michael Jackson passed, the whole world came together to mourn him. No celebrity is ever going to be able to top that type of impact and response.
The actors that played Michael Jackson, Giuliano Valdi and Jafar Jackson, Michael's nephew, blew this shit out of the park, bro. Oh my God. Performances out of this world, man. But it is definitely hard to see baby Michael Jackson get beat on. Didn't like that at all, but it's a part of the story, I guess. Speaking of, Coleman Domingo is such a great actor. I feel like that shouldn't even have to be said, but anytime he was on the screen, bro, the energy shifts. He's really menacing, bro. And also, whenever he's trying to play up that like charismatic, funny nigga, you can still feel the like darkness behind it, and it's just that nigga's such a great actor, bro. Oh my gosh. Honestly, I feel like everybody talking about how the story is not good really is not a Michael Jackson fan, because you would know that you are there for the performance. And the performances from literally everybody is top tier. It literally felt like they did a seance and Michael Jackson was literally on the screen from childhood all the way up into adulthood, bro. That being said, I will say the movie does feel a little bit nerfed because it really feels like there's parts of it that are missing. And I'm pretty sure that they did take a lot of stuff out of it, especially with like literally all of Diana Ross's parts. And I was honestly looking forward to seeing Kat Graham, my baby. Pissed off she's not in the fucking movie, but whatever, I guess. The brothers are definitely underused, but I think that it's like done purposely because it's the Michael show. Obviously, it was the Michael show in real life and it's the Michael show in the movie. You know what I'm saying? So it's gonna be about bro, you know what I'm saying? And I think that there's a lot of cute stuff in the movie. There's a lot of really dope scenes as far as like the music goes, you know what I'm saying? And like the recreations of every single iconic moment up until like 1988, it's just I loved it, bro. It's a great experience in the theater, bro. I find it hard to pick this movie apart because I just feel so good after watching it. I'm not even gonna hold you, bro.
There was a lot to process. Sitting here watching those clips, it becomes so clear that for the Black American family, Michael Jackson represents something that a movie review simply cannot capture. For the older generations who remember those 5 little boys with afros on the show, Michael Jackson was more than a singer. He was a symbol of hope. In the world that didn't show love to black people, Michael Jackson was the one who made the planet to stop and pay attention. He was excellency in its purest form. I see these reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, and it is honestly frustrating to see how the mainstream media is trying to minimize it. They want to talk about the script or the pacing, but they don't seem to understand that for the community, this is not a school film project. This is the man who carried the weight of people's dreams on his shoulders for 50 years. When the critics say it is not sanitized, what they are really trying to say is that they are upset because they didn't get to see more of the tragedy. They want the dirty. But haven't you seen enough of that? Haven't your icons been toned down enough over the years? For the people who watched him grow up, seeing Jafar Jackson on the screen is not just about acting. It is the reminder of the time when the community felt untouchable because he was untouchable. Let's talk about the Joe Jackson dynamic for a moment, because that clearly hit a nerve in the footage, and the people in the clips are talking about feeding the next ass whooping. There is a deep, painful truth in that. We have to acknowledge that the road to Michael's greatness was paved with a lot of struggles. Joe Jackson was a product of his time, a black man in a hard world trying to make sure that his sons didn't end up lost to the streets. It made him seek out Neverland because he never got to have childhood in the real world. For those of you at home who lived through that kind of old school discipline, seeing that on the screen is not just a plot point. It is a reflection of your own lives. It is a reminder of the sacrifices and the scars that comes with trying to survive in America. And then there is the loss of the hero. We have to speak on June 25th, 2009. I know many of you remember where you were when that news broke. For many of us, it felt like a member of a family passed away. That is why you are seeing people passing out in the theaters in 2026. That is why the ambulances are being called. It is a release. It is finally getting to see the king one last time. Even if it is through his nephew's eyes. Jafar didn't just learn the dances, he channeled the soul. When he looks into the camera with that shy smile, he is giving a whole black American generation their bladders back. The critics want to focus on 1993 allegations and the scandals, but the mainstream media has been obsessed with Michael's downfall since the 80s. They loved him until he became too big for them to control. They loved him until he started owning his own destiny. Then all of a sudden, seeing this movie get a low score from those types of critics, it feels like a continuation of story. They don't want us to have our heroes. They want us to remember him by the names they gave him in the tabloids. But we remember him as Michael. We remember him as the man who visited the orphanage, the man who worked, heal the world, and the man who quite literally changed the way the planet moves. Think about Conqueror's hug he mentioned in the video. That aura. Michael reached a level of fame that will never be seen again. There was no social medias, no TikTok, no Instagram, just pure talent and spirit. He crossed every border, broke every record. For the black American community, it was the ultimate proof that their art is the world's art. From the victory tour to the bad era, he was showing black Americans that they belong on the biggest stage. When he filmed They Don't Care About Us in favelas of Brazil, and the local groups had to protect him because authorities couldn't. That is not just fame. That is the connection to the people that goes deeper than any movie review could ever reach. I know the movie has its flaws. People missed Janet. They missed the deeper bond with his siblings. They missed the transition into Dangerous Years where he really started to push the envelope. And yeah, maybe the writing was fast for someone. But when you see the fans dancing, waving light sticks like it is revival meeting, you realize the movie succeeded at one thing that matters. They kept the heart beating. To the old heads who remember buying Off the Wall on vinyl, and to the kids who are just discovering Billie Jeans on their phones, this Michael Jackson biopic movie was made for you. It is a reminder that no matter how they try to rewrite the story or bury legacy under negative reviews, the truth of Michael Jackson is written on our hearts. He was a gift. He was a complicated, beautiful, and genius soul who gave everything he had until he had nothing left to give. I want to hear from you. I want you to tell me your favorite Michael Jackson memory in the comments. Tell me what it felt like the first time you saw him do the moonwalk. Tell me if the scenes with Joe Jackson reminded you of your own family history. You need to hold on onto these stories, because if you don't, the critics will be the only one left talking. And we know they don't see him the way you do. Let's keep the comment section as a place of respect and love for the king. If you have enjoyed watching this video, share it to somebody who loved Mike as you do. Hit that subscribe button to stay a part of the family that we are building. Rest in peace, Michael Jackson. The world thanks you for all the magic. You are still the greatest of all time. And no Rotten Tomatoes score will ever change that for the people who truly knew you. Thank you all for the love and for watching. I will see you in the next one. Peace and love. Mr. TA signing off. Ciao.